how they are behaving in the last 2 decades, I mean in the last two solar cycles, and how such behavior has surprised all of us. So the brief outline of my talk is giving a brief introduction about CMEs and some its consequences and motivation behind studying the solar cycle 23 and 24. And after that, I will discuss the various solar and interplanetary parameters which have changed in the last two solar cycles. So mainly I will focus on the mass loss from the sun via CME and solar wind, and then how the ICMEs are expanding in the heliosphere. And later, I will briefly discuss the abundances and charge state of CMEs, which we observe at 1 AU near the Earth. So, giving a brief introduction about solar wind, CME, and heliosphere, solar wind is a continuous stream of charged particles from the sun, while the coronal mass ejection, as seen in the bottom panel, is the episodic release of huge magnetized plasma from the sun into the heliosphere. And heliosphere is the region of the around the sun, which is probably we can say the magnetosphere of the sun, in which the region in which the solar wind and the CME makes the plasma pressure dominant. After the heliosphere, the interstellar medium takes over and the dominance is of the interstellar wind. So, in some sense, the heliosphere is a cavity in the interstellar medium formed by the sun plasma pressure, sun, solar wind, and CMEs. So, CMEs are very important as can lead to geomagnetic perturbations in the Earth's magnetosphere once they reach to the Earth. And a typical example of such geomagnetic perturbation is shown in the bottom panel, where the March 1989 geomagnetic storm lead to the depletion in the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field for a very long time, and the intensity of such perturbation is quite high. So this storm of March 1989 has been studied extensively in the literature, and it is understood that this actually storm led to the power failure in the Quebec for a few hours. So we understand that CMEs are very important as they lead to several space weather consequences. One of them is the typical geomagnetic storm. CMEs are known to be associated with solar flare and filaments. So solar flare is basically the sudden flash of light in all electromagnetic spectrum on the time scale of few minutes. And the top panel shows how the sudden brightening, and following that we can see the CME observed in the stereochronograph image. Sometimes the CME has also been associated with filament eruption. As you can see in the bottom panel, the filament is evolving and erupted in the form of a CME. So basically, we now several studies has been done in this direction, and it is known that in fact CME and flare are not causally related, and both is probably the result of reconfiguration of complex magnetic field lines by some process, underlying process. That process may be called magnetic reconnection. So by this process, enough energy is stored in a reservoir which can be contributed towards solar flare and CME both. So we cannot see the magnetic field in the upper corona or in the corona, but we see the coronal loops, which basically traces the magnetic field lines. We can see in this image magnetic field extrapolation very well matches with the coronal this magnetic field lines, and within the few error of only few degree, if we project on this, so we can see that corona and this all phenomena of CME and flare is magnetically driven, and one need to understand how this process happen. So to understand this, sun has been observed in several multi wavelengths. What I wanted to highlight here, if we see the sun in continuum, we can see the dark sun spot on the photosphere. And correspondingly, if you see other images of the sun, just above this sun spot, if you see that the upper layer of the sun, which is observed in the high temperature, we can see that there are several brightenings which actually corresponds to the activity happening there. So it means larger the sun spots on the sun, we will see larger activity on the sun. So the sun spots on the sun, its number actually varies over time. When there are large number of sun spots, we say sun is going through a maximum activity phase, and when there are very less, we say minimum. Such maximum to minimum variation of the sun solar activity is called solar cycle, which is basically a roughly 11-year periodic process of the rising of the sunspots number reaching to maximum and then following a decrease. So here we can see the solar cycles variation, several solar cycles in the last several decades. What I am interested here is to see how this solar cycle 23 and 24, where the solar cycle 23 sunspots number are very high, but however in solar cycle 24 the number of sunspots is quite less. Although such such difference in the amplitude of these cycles has been previously noted, but there was a lack of continuous and uniform data to explore those times and the sun and the interplanetary behavior of CMEs and solar wind. So I will be basically focusing on the solar cycle 23 and 24. So how these sunspots are found, briefly I will describe that. The sunspots are actually formed by the differential rotation of the sun, which actually winds up the magnetic field below the surface of the sun. And such wind up, if it is strong, it will be, the magnetic field lines will be kinked and break out of the surface. If the magnetic field breaks and come out of the surface, it forms a sunspots. And here we can see that when this magnetic field lines tearing and coming out of the photosphere, it appears dark because magnetic field line have prevented the convection happening at this place. So that's why this region becomes cooler and appears dark. So what I wanted to highlight that larger the sunspot, we expect larger the magnetic phenomena like CME, solar flare happening on the sun. If you see here the pattern, what I wanted to highlight that solar cycle 23 and 24 is very different in amplitude in terms of sunspot number. So other than the amplitude, if we see the solar cycle 23, it has a long minimum, and in fact the heliospheric phases started looking at the data since the solar cycle 23 was extended and the sun was in deep minimum. So so the sunspot is one proxy by which we can see the activity on the sun. But as I described earlier, several other phenomena like CME and solar flare are also related to sunspot number in some sense. So one can also look other proxies and see how they are behaving in the last two solar cycles. So if we see here, this last two solar cycle have gathered attention since beginning when the sun was in deep minimum. The solar cycle 23 extending, and we can see here that solar polar field was determined by the magnetograms images, and we can see here that the field was actually in fact decreasing throughout the cycle 23, and it extended even in cycle 24. There was also recent study in fact in the cycle 24, it's within the cycle 24 we can see they have compared the how different at geomagnetic perturbation index, like these all are the geomagnetic index like DST, which measures the perturbation around the Earth's equatorial region. Then we have a auroral electrojet index, which measures the perturbation in the polar region of the Earth's magnetosphere, and in fact the ionospheric field. So we can see that the various index, if we have plotted and compare the same phase of the two solar cycle 23 and 24, we can see that in cycle 24 after 2008, we can see the very less magnetic perturbation has taken place, as if the sun is not sending intense CMEs, which actually lead to geomagnetic storms. Other than this, people have also took the approach of helioseismology and compared the difference in the solar rotation rate in the interior in the corresponding two minimum, solar cycle 23 minimum in 1996 and solar cycle 24 minimum in 2008. And what we found that there is a difference, there is a decrease in the rotation speed inside the sun. So such helioseismic study has also actually tried to explain how the sun is behaving and how the minima of solar cycle 23 is getting extended, which was also for a few unusual.
Just Vagish, 1 second. This is Ravindra here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, previous slide. The top plot is absolute value, is it?
Yeah, this is
Because
observation
okay.
from
Otherwise,
FDI.
okay, thank you.
So, as I described earlier, that one can also see the number of CMEs in the last two solar cycle. And if we count the number of CME observed by the SOHO LASCO, which is a chronograph located at the L1 point of the Sun Earth system, what we can see that the sunspot number shown with the blue has in fact decreased in the solar cycle 23. And also the solar cycle 23, if you see, it is quite long minima in terms of sunspot number. But if you see the CME rate, it has not decreased even during the minima of solar cycle 23. And of course, here also one can notice that the CME rate in cycle 24 was also high in fact. However, it should be in fact lesser than the solar cycle 23 number of CME at the rate of CME. So what I also try to see the number of ICME, it means the CME which reach to the earth. And if we see here, the CME which are reaching to the earth are actually somewhat decreased in the minimum, but the maxima of cycle 24 counted observed the same rate we are observing at the earth's same rate of ICME is reaching in similar to the previous cycle 23. So the point what I wanted to make that if we counting the CME is always a problematic, because how one can count the CMEs, the definition of CME is itself is like a moving blob out of the observed in the chronographic images. So if one observed small and faint ejection, so number of CME may rise. Other problem may come that if we develop an algorithm, it can also be the dependent on the algorithm, what type of blocks we are counting in catching. So the point is, several studies.
Can I have a question? Ask a question here, Vagesh. In the previous plot, yeah, this cycle 23, 24, the measurement of CMEs are both cycles have the same kind of algorithm.
Yeah, this is the manual. This is the manual observation from the LASCO C2.
It's a manual catalog.
Yeah, it's the manual catalog, SIDA catalog, where the manual observer see the images and record the CME, identify the CME.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So, in fact, there has been studied in this direction by counting the halo CME, which surrounds the occulting disk of the chronograph. And if we halo CME, then also if we see in the cycle 24, the halo CMEs are in fact larger in number than in the previous cycle. So, and then there are studies since there are several arguments, because the LASCO instrument cadence was changed in the 2010. So it may be possible that increasing in the cadence is recording large number of CME. Then it was corrected in some of the studies where we can say here SIDS C2 low cadence catalog. So we in fact reduced the cadence, and what we found that after reducing the cadence, it is somewhat following the trend of the sunspots number. But then the halo CME, it is argued that the rate of halo CME, the counting of halo CME would not be altered by the changing the cadence. So Gopal Swami have also made a study saying that the larger number of halo CME in the solar cycle 24 is in fact due to the weak heliospheric pressure, where the CMEs have expanded faster closer to the sun, and they are becoming halo. So if any small ejection expand enough to become halo, the rate of halo CME observation will be increased. So it means that this increased rate of halo CME was given, the region was given due to the reduction in the heliospheric pressure. But rather than counting the number of CME, whether it is manual or automated catalogs, we are adopting here a different approach, which is physically more meaningful. We are estimating the mass loss via total CME instead of CME number. So when we calculate the total mass from the CME, anyway the ejections which are quite very faint, they will not contribute significantly, and they will be like compensated. So what we do is, and also the calculation of mass loss and studying and understanding the rate by which sun is losing the mass is also helpful, because later such study can be used to understand how the other stars can lose the mass and momentum. And also other stars can maybe very more active than the sun, and the wind from them can lead to severe space weather and can change the habitability around the planet, on the planets around them. So also we will be studying the latitudinal dependence of mass loss. So what we do here is that we take the all CME in the manual catalog and calculate the mass loss due to CME in the latitudinal bin of -30 to 30 degree, and then -60 to 60 degree, and then also -90 to 90 degree. So if we see the total mass loss, and we have determined the latitude of all the CME from the central position angle as marked in the Glasgow C2 images. So if we see the mass loss from the sun, if we take the large range of latitude, the discrepancy in the sunspots number and the total mass loss, which is shown with the black line, is almost less pronounced. It means that some of the CMEs are actually associated with the high latitude, because sunspots are mainly the region they are in the region of low to mid latitude. So if we cover the high latitude, the difference in the mass loss rate and the sunspot number in the cycle 24 is compensated. But if we see carefully, even after 2000, here if you see 2007, the mass loss rate has not decreased as the sunspot number. We try to fit a relation between the mass loss rate and the sunspot number. And then we thought that let us take X-ray luminosity as another proxy instead of sunspot number, and find and see the correlation if the mass loss rate from the mass loss rate via CME from the sun is better correlated. And when we take the X-ray luminosity, background X-ray luminosity, we found that the mass loss via CME are better correlated with the solar X-ray luminosity. And when we say background X-ray luminosity, we have excluded all the flux contributed by the flare data. And so any flux above than this 10 to the power -6, we have excluded from the gauge X-ray data. And then we have calculated the background X-ray luminosity of the sun, which will be basically from the Bremsstrahlung line emission, and that is the proxy plasma in the closure. So from there, if we see, what we find that the correlation is improved. It means that sunspot number may not be a very good proxy to predict the CME rate on the sun. And since the solar X-ray luminosity covers the whole sun, not only the low to mid latitude where the sunspots are located, so it can be a better proxy. And once we know how the X-ray luminosity of the sun can be extrapolated to other stars, if we observe their X-ray flux or fluence in some flare, we can better have some idea to how to scale up the solar relations for the other solar type stars. I was also interested to see how the solar wind is actually behaving in the last two solar cycles. And if we see here, the solar wind is continuously decreasing, at least during the up to the maximum of cycle 24. But it's the magnitude of the solar wind mass loss is one order of magnitude actually higher. We have also calculated this, estimated the calculation between the mass loss via solar wind and the solar X-ray luminosity, and we can see that correlation is not much improved. So it means the solar wind mass loss is not very well correlated with either the sunspot number or the X-ray luminosity. And we have also fitted some relation which can give order of magnitude solar mass loss via the solar wind actually.
Vagesh,
Yeah.
just one sec. How did you get this mass of this solar wind?
Yeah, so we actually measured the mass flux at 1 AU, and took it that and assumed that the same mass loss from the sun is being in all the direction. And this assumption can be valid because see, the slow solar wind have high density but the low speed, but the high solar wind will have a high speed, of course, but the low density, and this varies by a factor of 2. So in it means that the mass loss, the rate will be compensated for both slow and high speed solar wind. So if we measure something at 1 AU, we can take long-term average and assume that from all part of the sun, similar mass loss is happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I try to see the relative contribution of CME to solar wind. And for this, actually, I have taken the CME at the sun and launched it like with a self-similar expansion and found the density at 1 AU, and then the same density flux or mass flux is compared with the solar wind mass flux, proton flux. What we found that contribution of CME to total solar wind in the ecliptic is not even more than 5% even at the time of solar maximum. So it means the main process, the main thing is the solar wind, ambient solar wind, which is the continuous stream losing the mass much more efficiently. If we have also done the CME at different latitudes, and what we found that at higher latitude, the CME contribution to total solar wind is much smaller because most of the CMEs come in the ecliptic plane after traveling some distance in the heliosphere. So what I wanted to highlight that CME contribution to solar wind is in both solar cycle is almost the same. So if you see here, it is only very slightly changed, not much. It is close to 5% in both solar cycles. So this is very surprising actually. So what I wanted to, from this all analysis, what we gather is if we compare the both cycle in terms of different proxy, they are varying in a different magnitudes. Like solar wind mass loss rate in solar cycle 24 is of course decreased, but it is only very nominal, only by 10%. While the CME mass loss rate is decreased by 15%. So we can see when we were counting the number of CME, they were much higher in solar cycle 24. But when we took the mass loss rate, it means when we look the CME process in terms of total mass, it is only by 15% change weekend in the cycle 24. So it means in solar cycle 24, we had several faint ejections. And this is another problem to understand why there are numerous ejects CME in solar cycle 24, but of course they are weaker, but they are more in number. So the mass loss rate is decreased by 15%. And the X-ray background luminosity is decreased by 20%. We can see the sunspot number is very decreased in cycle 24. And this was the region when obvious index and the proxy of solar cycle is seen sunspot number. We find that solar cycle 24 is very much weaker. But in fact, other eruption processes and other index, if we see other proxies of solar cycle, the cycle 24 is weaker, but not as strongly as it has been seen in the sunspot number. So this study can also suggest that X-ray background luminosity can be a better proxy to understand mass loss rate in some other stars also. And what we noticed that there was in fact increased CME since 2003. If we see the earlier plot, not only the solar cycle 24, in fact from the 2003 itself, the CMEs are more in number. So this also need to be understood, and what my study suggests that there are more CMEs from the high latitude in the cycle 24, and this is probably due to the weakening of polar magnetic field. There are some studies in this direction. So the another part of my talk today is how they are evolving in the future.
Hi Vagish, sorry, can I ask some question?
Yeah.
So actually the sunspot number we measure in the line of sight direction, right? But in the coronagraph, CMEs are seen that are originated far side of sun also. So how to compensate those things?
Yeah, so to compensate those things, anyway, we have taken long-term sunspot number, like monthly. So do you mean that some sunspots are at the back of the sun? How that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so even to fit that function, we have put some constant here, like some, so that will be balanced, the
Okay.
constant.
Okay.
So as I described earlier, that the rate of CMEs are of course different in the two solar cycle. Another interesting point would be to see how they are evolving into the heliosphere. Since the solar cycle 24 is weaker, one can expect that CMEs will be expanding faster.
Vagesh, sorry, I raised a hand, so I just have one question. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Okay, yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
So it is about, the part you were, talking about where you want to estimate the mass of a CME. So are you going to discuss, how that mass is estimated in your later slides, or?
yeah, actually that is from the Thomson scattering. Simply the CMEs are seen in the Thomson scattered images. So one can estimate the projected mass using the chronograph images, considering the fraction of CME like 90% hydrogen and 10% helium. So
I see. So the spherical thing is taken into account. I mean, you just take a axis of symmetry and you calculate what is the volume.
yeah. So I expand it up to the 1 AU. They are launched in the self-similar, taking the angular width. We take the angular width at the sun, and considering the same angular width, we launch the CME in the heliosphere.
Okay. So there is some given, codes or, algorithms to estimate this essentially, and that is like agreed upon, or are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more thing is about this CME and solar wind. You were calculating this ratio, I think, of mass loss by CME versus the mass loss by solar wind as a function of time, right? You had a plot like that. So I wanted to know that, so the solar wind, I understand, like it is like spherically symmetric or whatever it is, so you can take some estimate of that. For the CMEs, you also don't see, say half of the CMEs probably. So is that taken into account? I mean, the CMEs which are, are not seen is on the other side of the sun, or how is it done?
So yeah, so maybe some CMEs are missed, but when we will see the projected image, even the CME going back will be seen in the projected image, right? Can we not see that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We can see them, but a few faint ejections will be missed if they are really under the occultation, so the chronograph occulter.
I see. So in your study, you have counted those as well. I mean, whenever possible.
Yeah, no. So there is a menu catalog of the CME. I have taken the data from the catalog and then further did my calculation of estimation of mass, then estimation of density at 1 AU, comparing it with the solar wind. So like this I have done. But the number of CMEs which are well counted and cataloged, that I have used the catalog of CME.
Okay. And one last question about that same figure. So what is the time duration over which you have, taken this ratio? I mean, for each data point that you have plotted on that curve, I think it's not a data point, it's a histogram. It looks like, this one, the one after this, 21, slide 21 maybe.
21. Okay. This one?
The next one. This is slide 20. Yeah, this one. The left lower one. Yeah, the 21. No, this is 20.
This one.
This one. Left. Yeah. So each, whatever you have point. So over how much time have you, solar wind is there, almost all the time, but CMEs you only see once in a while. So how do you do the time averaging? I mean,
Yeah. So for this, what I have done, from all the continuous solar wind data, I have identified the region of ICME. When the CME arrive, they lead to leading edge of the CME and trailing edge. So from the continuous solar wind data, those interval of CME has been excluded to know the solar wind profile, and only those interval can be considered for the CME.
Okay, the intervals in which
Yeah, so let me tell. When I say solar wind,
Oh,
anything which is coming at the Earth, observed at 1 AU is assumed in this solar wind. But
okay.
for the CME, since once the CME arrive, we can identify them from their density profile and expansion profile and magnetic field. We know that this CME has arrived. So we mark the leading edge of the CME and trailing edge of the CME at the Earth at L1 point. And the density during that ICME region has been taken long-term average.
Long-term
Here,
average. Okay.
annual average.
Annual average. Okay. 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 And you are only doing it for ICMEs, not for
Yes, not for other. Maybe CIRs are also coming. Some other features are coming. Some stream interaction regions are coming. But those all are, I have assumed they all are part of continuous solar wind. So only the identified ICME I have considered as a ICME.
Okay, so this calculation CME versus solar wind mass loss, this
Yeah.
is at the Earth, right?
Yeah, this is at the
This
Earth.
is at the Earth. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
This
we
is
have
not not an integration over the the entire solid angle. That is, it's not 4 pi,
yeah,
but it
no.
is only at the Earth.
So actually, when I have taken CME, what I have done, it is actually integration. See, we know that some CME is launched, suppose at 30 degree away from the sun earth line. So if we expand the same CME, a part of the CME will hit the earth after some time. So I have taken the angular width and the direction of CME in the ecliptic plane and propagated it. So I know, but only the assumption is the CME had a uniform density. So whatever we measure the mass of a CME, we distribute it during the whole volume of the CME. So then we
Okay,
know
fair
that
enough.
part is reaching to the earth, and the same density we can know. So how much? I think I am clear.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But
So
at least it is in the direction of the Earth. That is what. It is not the 4 pi solid angle, right?
yeah, not 4 pi. So for this contribution, I have taken all the CME in the ecliptic, propagated it in the ecliptic, and if they have enough angle, means angular width, they will certainly reach to the earth after some time.
Okay.
So this is like a theoretical extrapolation of the total CME mass filled in the CME volume.
Okay.
So just one more, just quick question before you go ahead on this point. The measurements you are showing here is 1 AU measurement of the background solar wind is all from the same instrument? Is
Yeah,
it
all from the same instrument. Yeah.
Is it SOHO?
No, ACE.
Yes. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. So so it would also be interesting to understand how ICMEs are actually expanding into the heliosphere. Since the sun solar cycle 24 had become weaker, one can expect that any CME may expand relatively faster than the typical CME in the solar cycle 23. But the problem that how we measure the expansion is little complicated. When we see the CME in the cosmographic field of view, the expansion near the sun would be probably the lateral expansion speed. One can measure this perpendicular to this propagation and see how fast they are expanding. Once someone measure the ICME expansion by some in situ instruments, they will measure the radial expansion speed. Of course, there is some discrepancy between these two lateral and radial expansion speed. Other than this, the expansion will also be governed, the in situ measured expansion will also be influenced by the relative orientation of spacecraft and the CME geometry. Like here, if a spacecraft passing through the nose of the CME, it may have different duration of ICME, while one passing through the flank of the ICME will measure only a small fraction. So the expansion in the flank may be smaller, while the expansion measured when the spacecraft is intersecting through the nose of the ICME may be different. So this problem will be there. So for the my purpose for the analysis, most of the observers what they do, they consider only the events where they are sure about the spacecraft passing through the nose of the CME to have the uniformity in the data. And such events are known as magnetic cloud, because when we observe the ICME through its nose, We measure its strong magnetic field because the magnetic fields are weaker in the flank. We have a larger component of velocity. So, and the plasma beta will also be less in this direction. Here we will have lot of plasma deflecting of the solar wind. So solar wind will be pile up here and it will be deflected. So this will have some different property than the CME property. To show here this picture, what I wanted to see here, if the CME is fast enough, it will drive a shock. Then we will have a region compressed by the shock that we say sheath region, and then we have typical stroke of CME. We will say it magnetic cloud or the ICME flux stroke. I will not go much into the explaining the different terms, but what I wanted to highlight that ICME expansion has been measured in the past by the in situ instruments, which is basically the difference in the leading edge speed, propagation speed, and the difference in trailing edge. And if we know the difference in leading and trailing edge speed, and if you take half of that, it will actually give the expansion speed. Because CME have both propagation component and expansion component. So the typical ICME expansion speed has been shown here for several events, and what we found that although there is a broad range of ICME leading edge speed, the expansion speed is somewhat narrow. And how the ICME evolves is yet poorly understood. Most of the efforts have been made to understand the propagation of speed. So I wanted to highlight that state of the heliosphere has been changing in this two solar cycle. If we see first the right panel plot, what we found that if we take the long-term average, so in the beginning of the cycle 23, if we see the 62 months, and then we see the first 62 months in the cycle 24, and compare different parameters in the heliosphere like pressure, magnetic field, density, and temperature, and the bottom is the Alban speed. So if we see here, what we see that in the cycle 24, of course, there is a decrease in this heliospheric pressure and density and temperature. This has also been seen in the interplanetary scintillation. If one see the scintillation from the radio source, we can see that there are less turbulence in the medium, and the scintillation index from the IPS observation has been shown declining in the cycle 24. And in fact, it is declining also in 23. So there is a trend. And earlier I have also shown that how the solar wind is also in fact decreasing somewhat. So the point here is that heliosphere has become weaker. The pressure is lesser and the turbulence is lesser in the solar cycle 24. So one can expect that CME would expand faster. So how would we measure the ICME expansion? With the distance. There are two approaches. One can be if we track a single CME and observe the expansion at different place, like by the in situ instruments in the orbit of Mercury, Venus, or other planets. So this is one approach. We need several satellites in the heliosphere, and they must be in a line probably to measure the same structure. Other than that, one can track the leading and trailing edge of the CME in the heliosphere, and each time see the difference in the speed and know the expansion. The alignment of several satellites is a rare event. It is not always possible, and we have very less number of data points. And tracking of edge and trailing edge throughout the sphere up to 100, or this is like 30-degree elongation angle, which is around 150 or some solar radii. So tracking CME in the heliosphere is a difficult task. So other than this, what is the option that if we measure the several CME at different in situ instruments, it is not like same CME is being measured by different spacecraft. Any number of CME is being measured. So statistically, we can take long-term average of ICME properties at the different spacecraft which are located at different distance from the sun, and one can see how the CMEs are expanding. From this statistical approach, it has been shown that width of CME actually increases somewhat with the heliocentric distance. It means they are expanding, and the expansion speed is of the order of heliocentric distance in the heliosphere. And expansion of, if you see the density gradient in the ICME compared to the solar wind, we see here the different profile. What we see that density, speed, and magnetic field in the ICME decreases much faster. But the temperature, if you see, it is slightly increased in compared to solar wind. It means most of the CMEs are actually heated during its propagation. And yeah, so I wanted to highlight that the plasma parameters in ICME and in the ambient solar wind evolve differently. So I am interested to see how the physical state of the heliosphere has changed the size and the duration of ICME being observed at 1 AU. For this purpose, again, I used the ICME catalogs, which have identified the good cases of ICME seen at 1 AU based on the temperature magnetic field observations. So if we see here the duration of ICME in cycle 24, it is in fact decreased. If you see here the peak, of course, there is a large scatter in the data plots. But if you see the ICME duration, average ICME duration in cycle 24, it has actually some decrease. And if you see the sheath duration, which is the region between the CME driven shock and the flux rope of the CME, we see that sheath have the equal duration, of almost equal duration in both the cycle. This is actually surprising because in cycle 24, we have less number of CME driven shock because we have very less number of strong fast speed CME. So one can expect that less number of shock will not compress the ambient solar wind strongly and the sheath should be smaller, but it is not the case and it is surprising. If you see the sheath and ICME complete, if you consider the CME as a complete, including the sheath region, we see here again that average duration is smaller. So what I wanted to highlight that we need to think why is the ICME observed at 1 AU in solar cycle 24 is not of the larger size, larger duration. But since the speed is less, we can also see the size. So taking the speed into account, propagation speed, if you see here, the average duration of average radial size of ICME in cycle 24 is again actually decreased, even if we consider the speed, not only counting the hours or the passes duration. And same for the sheath, that sheath size is almost equal in both the cycle. So the point I wanted to highlight that what actually this is very surprising. Although the heliosphere, the physical state has become weak, so any CME, the internal pressure of the CME should make it expand faster. But it has not been the case. So the one possibility may be that ICME in cycle 24 has achieved pressure balance with ambient medium at much closer to the sun. And to know this, we have taken the, okay, so before this, I have already described that some ICME may be intersected from the flank and they may lead to some error. So now we took only the magnetic clouds. It means where we are sure that all the ICME has been intersected by the in situ spacecraft from through its nose. And if you see here the flux rope size, which is the magnetic cloud, again the cycle 24, at least it has not changed much, and in fact decreased size and duration both. So either the possibility can be that solar cycle 24 is actually having a smaller flux rope itself from the sun, or maybe the diminished magnetic content of the magnetic clouds as CME in cycle 24 is not making them to expand and become larger, or maybe the average, what I can say, the ambient solar wind is interacting in such a way that CME are not expanding. So what is the case? To know that, we have taken the expansion speed of CME and magnetic cloud pair. It means CME, when we see the expansion close to the sun, and magnetic cloud, it means the expansion close to the earth. So what we found that if you see here, the close to the sun CME expansion in cycle 24 is slightly higher, not much. But close to the earth, the expansion of the magnetic clouds in cycle 24 is in fact decreased. If you see the magnitude, average magnitude, it has become decreased by a factor of 2. So the point is, maybe the overexpansion of CME is happening close to the sun in cycle 24, and that overexpansion is leading to diminished magnetic content inside the CME and not allowing the CME to expand much away from the sun. And that's why when they are reaching to Earth, they are having, in fact, reduced sizeage than the cycle 23. And but these results are not very statistically significant when I say the overexpansion close to the sun, because it is only difference is very small. But of course, close to the Earth, the difference is significant. So what I wanted to highlight that the weak heliospheric state of the solar cycle 24 have not allowed the CME to become larger. It means they have not CME have not expanded enough at larger distance from the sun. So from this analysis, what we found that reduction in the heliospheric pressure is actually balanced by the reduced internal pressure, and that it is due to the overexpansion of CME close to the sun. And in fact, if we see the magnetic cloud numbers, the magnetic clouds arriving at the Earth are not much different, only the 45% than the previous cycle, but they have not led to intense geomagnetic storms. So it means even if the ICME arrive at the 1 AU, they are not strong enough to lead to perturbation in the Earth's magnetosphere. However, there are some problems in this data analysis, and that is probably whether we are really observing the flux rope and maybe the geometric selection effect, as I described, the flank and nose intersection of the in situ spacecraft is making some bias in the data. And maybe in the cycle 24, the possibility of erosion is smaller because the weak heliospheric medium has not lead to much erosion at the CME nodes. So there is various possibility, and these need to be examined carefully to see how the different phase of the solar cycle is affecting the expansion of CME. So I will go to the third point of my talk, how the composition and abundances in the CME are actually changing, whether in the both solar cycle there is any significant difference. ICME have been basically identified and known that they are they have enhanced abundances of heavy ions and elevated ionic charge state, because when the CME are initiated, they lead to there is a larger temperature at the sun due to the magnetic phenomena reconnection. So they have actually higher ionic charge states, and they may have larger O+7 to O+6 ratio. These are well documented that ICME have this typical composition and abundance from a long-term data. But what I am interested that since the charge state of heavy ions are frozen in at the height closer to the sun, very low in the corona, and after that the expansion and the ionization and recombination time scale actually quite large than the expansion time scale, it is not possible that any change would happen in the charge state of the heavy ions. So one can actually determine the various freezing temperature from the observed composition of the CME, and see at what temperature such composition is actually made. Like if we see the density of the oxygen at different charge state like O+7 and O+6, from this density ratio of O+7 to O+6, one can see how at what temperature they might have arrived. So it means that freezing temperature can be calculated by solving the balance of recombination and ionization rate in the collisional equilibrium. So this is the model which is well developed. So what I am interested to see is how the average charge state of iron is varying over the two solar cycles. So if we see in the CME, here I have written ICME solar wind. It means part of the solar wind, part of ICME. If you see here and divided the ICME in the two bins, one with slow speed and one with high speed, we see here the plot that average charge state of iron in cycle 24 is slightly decreased than the previous solar cycle. But if we see the charge state of average charge state of iron in the solar wind, basically the non-ICME solar wind, what we found that it is much decreased in the during the extended minima of cycle 23 here. And also this average charge state of iron in solar wind is speed dependent. So this actually says that the source region of slow wind streams are affected significantly if you see this plot. And from these two plots, what we see that slower speed ICME shows better variation of average charge state of iron from maxima to minima. And if we compare the magnitude of the average charge state of iron, we see that average charge state of iron is higher in the solar wind, which basically suggests that higher temperature at the source region of the CME. I will come to this later. If we see here the fractional duration of average charge state plotted on the y-axis for the different charge state, what in each year, what we see that in cycle 24, we are lacking higher, means the duration of the average charge state of iron. So this clearly says that even in the solar wind and also in the ICME here, in these two plots. So the top panel is for the solar wind. If you see here the average charge state duration, it is in the solar wind it is not much changing. But if in the ICME here we can see that average charge state is higher in cycle 24. If you see here. So this clearly says that the source region temperature in both solar cycles is quite different. So the coronal temperature over this last 2 decades is varying significantly, and one need to understand the processes, how it is happening. To better understand whether there is a difference in physical process by which the CMEs are launched, we also looked at the abundances and charge state. These results are derived very recently in last couple of days, so I will not be going through very deep explaining it. But what I wanted to highlight that if you see the O+7 to O+6 ratio in the solar wind, and then also the abundance of iron, which has a low first ionization potential, what we see that in this solar cycle 24, there is a sudden increase in the Fe/O ratio. And also the O+7 to O+6 ratio and C+6 to C+5 ratio of the density. We see here, these are the velocity dependent, and they have much actually decreased in the deep minima of the solar cycle 23. And although they have recovered in the cycle 24, but its magnitude is smaller. So this clearly says that Fe/O did not, from this plot one can see that Fe/O ratio did not vary much in solar cycle 23. If you see here the magnitude, complete solar cycle 23, it was almost the same. But suddenly it has increased, and it was maintained in throughout the solar cycle 24. So why the solar cycle 24 solar wind have high iron Fe/O ratio need to be explored, and whether what are the plasma processes are taking place that need to be understood. So I on this this trend is for the ICME, and what we see here the same thing, that O+7 to O+6 and C+6 to C+5 here, it would be C+5. C+6 to C+5 ratio, charge state ratio, is higher in ICME than in the solar wind if we compare from the previous plot. And Fe/O ratio is speed dependent and is higher in ICME if we compare the magnitude with the solar wind. So the idea is that even the Fe/O in the ICME are much larger in the solar cycle 24. Here the peak, and this was complete low in the minima of the solar cycle 23, and then sudden rise. So as I described before, since in the cycle 24 we had lot of frequent ejections, but they were smaller, not very strong. So whether these smaller ejections are having larger Fe/O, this we need to understand. If it is the case, what can lead to this? How the heavier ion concentrations are actually increased in the solar cycle 24 ICME. It is possible that there are some processes, maybe the gravitational settling effect or some other processes by which more heavier elements are coming in the frequent ejections. This need to be further explored and compared with the other plots. So the highlight I wanted to give that the change in the oxygen flux are actually distinct, and its variation it varies from the faster to faster and slower solar wind speed, and the average charge state of iron is elevated in ICME than the solar wind. And these are different in the both two solar cycle. So we need to further examine the lifetime and temperature and the size of coronal loops with charge states of ambient solar wind, because the ambient solar wind is coming from the closed region. So we need to see whether the larger loop have larger temperature, and whether the solar wind coming from there have some different properties than the fast solar wind coming from the coronal hole region. So these things need to be explored in a very comprehensive manner. The new observations from the Parker Solar Probe and Solar Orbiter will actually help us to know the solar wind in the much nascent state closer to the sun. And then we need to see whether the abundance and temperature, how they vary at different distance from the sun in the similar type of solar wind structure like ICME and fast flow, fast solar wind and slow solar wind. So the implication of such study of understanding wind and CME is that one can try to use this knowledge to understand other stars and other stellar winds and CMEs. There are some studies of stellar winds as shown from the, here we can see in the Hubble, from the Hubble Space Telescope, the observation of Wolf-Rayet stars. And then I wanted to highlight here the right panel in this figure, in this slide. Here we can see that one X-ray spectra of is gathered from a star HR 9024 from the Kepler instrument, so Kepler Space Telescope. So we can see here that the flux count, and then we can see here the fluence of the flare. We see that typical flare is actually observed on the sun, on this star actually, and this is reported in this paper, and they have also associated a CME with stellar CME with this flare, observing the blue shift and red shift of plasma in the some emission lines. So the implication of understanding solar wind and solar CME is to understand how other solar type stars can behave. Of course, the intensity variation of other solar type stars is very different. There is a recent study by Reinhold, and they have taken several solar type stars, actually 369 stars similar to the sun. When I say similar to the sun, they are similar in temperature, size, and rotational speed. Even for the similar solar type stars, the brightness variation is much larger, if you see here, than the sun. It means that our sun is probably not much active, and it is good that it is not much active, but there can be other solar type stars which are more active, and how we can use our understanding of solar wind and solar acceleration to other stars would be very useful. One can model the origin and acceleration of solar wind, and then try to use these relations for the other solar type stars. So future research direction would lot of research need to be done to address the problems which I explained above, because there were several caveats in the study. One need to establish whether the weakening of polar photospheric magnetic field, which began in 2003, is responsible for a true increase in CME mass loss rate relative to the sunspot number. It's possible that this is speculation that weak in photospheric field, polar photospheric field, will allow even a small buildup of energy to be released in terms of CME, in the form of CME. So one need to see how this has increased the rate of CME. And then one need to, of course, see the solar wind mass loss from the different parts of the, like open flux, closed magnetic flux configuration. And also one need to see the latitudinal dependence of this mass loss, how it is affecting a star as a whole in long term. This one can, it would be interesting to model such things to know how the torque is being applied in other solar type stars which are more active. And the theoretical models need to be developed, which actually try to understand the sheath region. As I described before, the ICME sheath in cycle 23 and 24, both are very much equal. So there was not much change, although the solar cycle 24 is much weaker. There are less stronger CME, less number of CME driven shock, but still the ICME sheath duration is equal. in both solar cycles. So this need to be actually understand, because these results are very surprising. And the relative contribution of active region loops, quiet corona, coronal holes to the X-ray luminosity, and these other things related to charge, state ratio, and abundance should be explored in relation to another with another. So such study may guide us to understand the mass loss process from other solar type stars. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the reliability of extrapolation of solar observations to other solar type stars will be not. It still need to be seen whether how much one can do it. So this is still debatable. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Vagish. It was an interesting talk. Are there any questions?
Hi, Shridhar Nagaraju here. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Vagish. This ratio of iron to oxygen, that is the abundance ratio, no?
Yeah, abundance.
And is that estimated using particular ionization state of the iron atom, or how is it done?
Okay, so we have taken, when we estimate the abundance, we take the average, all charge state of iron is considered.
All okay. What is typically what is the kind of atoms found, and what is the ionization state? It's observed in the CME and solar wind.
Yeah, if you see here, the average would be close to 9, but it goes even up to
Here it is. Okay. Yeah. Sir. Okay. Okay. I just wonder if this is connected with the X-ray flux that reduces in cycle number 24. Right, it's about 40% decrease, right?
Yeah, actually it should be related, because if you see here, the average charge state has increased in cycle 24, but cycle 24 was weaker. So how the average charge state of iron has increased, this need to be actually understand.
Right. Yeah, looks like there's some correlation
Yeah.
with the X-ray flux.
Yeah. So this is very recently I plotted, so I have not very carefully seen the other things, but it is interesting.
Yeah. As you see in the beginning, like before 10, cycle 23 is less, right? I'm sorry, not what meant. Cycle 23 and 24. Okay. Anyway, it is opposite between below 10 and above 10.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question for Vagish?
There are some raised hands. Sridharan, probably you can order them as you wish.
Sorry, actually, I didn't see the hands. Sorry about that. Let me check. I don't see the hands risen here. Oh, okay. Now I see. Sorry. Rajguru, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, a quick question on the abundances. These abundance measurements are also at 1 AU from the L1 point, or what?
Yeah, it is also at 11 point for the ICMH, which arrived at the Earth.
Okay. My other question is, see, the state of the heliosphere is shaped by the sun only, right? So
Yes.
all the pressure, the quantities you showed, the heliospheric pressure, magnetic field, and all that is much decreased during cycle 24. Yeah, for example, this must have been caused by the sun only, right?
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
means, so that means it should be related to the previous long minimum, isn't it? Or what caused the decrease in all these parameters during the cycle 24?
Yeah, you are right that it is from the CME and solar wind. Since they are not much stronger, so the heliosphere is becoming weaker. Because anyway, the part of the coronal magnetic field is being swept up in the heliosphere. So weakening at the sun would lead to weakening in the heliosphere.
Right. Okay. So Okay, so another point I'm not sure if you mentioned it or I just imagined. You mentioned in one of the earlier slides that cycle 24 had a high latitude CMEs, right? More of high latitude CMEs, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But high latitudes we don't have sunspots, but we may have filaments. You know, is there a connection between filaments behaving differently, or there are more filaments coming in at the high latitude in cycle 24 than in cycle 23? I mean, is that understood? Why it is more high latitude CMEs in cycle
Yeah,
24?
yeah. So in my study, I only found that there are more CMEs from the higher latitude, but whether they all are related to this filament, I have not explored that, but it would be interesting to see that.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next, 1 minute. Sorry, Madam Annapurni, Madam, can you go ahead and ask?
I have a couple of questions. One is, how are you measuring these ionic lines, the strength of the ionic lines? I'm probably quite completely unaware of which instrument, where is it located at measuring the
Okay.
the ion and oxygen lines.
Yeah. So these are measured at the L1 point by the in situ instrument. So when the ICME plasma has arrived to the instrument, the detectors, mass spectrometer, and other things have measured the charge states and abundances.
Okay, and so this is like the in situ measurements at. So you have some time sampling. These measurements have been done over by the same instrument over the last 20 years or so.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. And another question is that if you are saying that this in situ measurement is taken as the thing for the solar wind also, right? This is what you're using for the solar wind also, right?
Yes.
The measurements from this. So if you think it is not spherically symmetric, like if you have more CMEs coming in various other directions, so how can you assume that the solar wind, which is actually measured at L1, can be taken up as the symmetric?
Okay. Yes. So actually, for this, I assume that since the ICMEs are not very frequently coming in the solar wind, so their contribution, the long-term average, in the long-term average of the solar wind, the contribution of ICME will be very minimal. But when we are deriving the average charge state of iron for the ICME, we are actually taking the region where only ICME is present. So from the solar wind, we are extracting the region of ICME, then doing the calculation for ICME. But for the solar wind, we are taking the complete duration. So am I getting the question?
Yeah, so my worry is that do you have any latitudinal difference for solar wind? That's the question.
Okay, so in this plot, there is we have not taken the latitudinal dependence because in the ecliptic plane, whatever is arriving at the in situ instruments, we are measuring that only, and we believe that the similar may be all from the sun.
Okay, so do you have an idea of what could be the error introduced if you ignore any variation, or do you have any idea what kind of variation could be expected latitudinally?
Okay, yeah, there will be variation because at least we know that like here, if we see the, okay, just let me just show this plot. If we see the solar wind, so we see here this all variations are different for different speed of solar wind, and we know that high speed solar winds are from the polar coronal hole. So if we take latitudinal dependence, maybe the more we will find more like the red one because they are from the coronal hole. But when the coronal hole shifts drift towards the equatorial region, they also can reach to Earth. So I mean that it would be interesting to see the latitudinal dependence from the missions which are going little bit off the ecliptic. But this is the instrument which is in the ecliptic plane. So all the data are only in the 0 degree latitude.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
There's one more question which I had with the X-ray luminosity. So it's quite interesting to see the X-ray luminosity correlation. So actually, one would think to have a correlation with the entire energetic, right from the the high energy to the lower energy part, right? But you seem to this seems to be indicating that more correlation towards the high energy. Am I reading it right?
Yeah, so more better correlation is for the high speed solar wind. Even for
Okay.
the solar wind and even for the CME, if we
Yes,
see
I
here,
understand.
yeah, the high speed have better amplitudes, higher amplitudes. High speed have higher amplitudes.
Okay.
That's
All
it.
right. Yeah. Thank you.
Next, Piali, can you please unmute and ask?
Yeah. Vagish, I think in your one of the concluding slides, you had some statements about decrease in photospheric magnetic field and how that is related to higher mass loss in CMEs. This is not this one. This is future research direction. I think this was.
Yeah, the first point.
Yeah, weakening of photospheric magnetic field responsible for true increase in CME mass loss rate relative to sunspot number. So is there any, is it like on the basis of correlation, or do you think there is any, physical connection or causality that,
Yeah, so
is
in
going
my
to give?
study, I just made this sentence from the correlation because from this year, there is high latitude, more number of high latitude CME. So I am just correlating that maybe polar photospheric magnetic field weakening is leading to more number of CME from the high latitude. As Rajguru also pointed out that maybe there are more number of filament eruptions in cycle 24 from the high latitude.
I mean, you mean this, more longer polarity inversion lines between these polar magnetic fields, right?
Yes.
So then does that, can we say that those CMEs, I mean, high latitude CMEs are actually larger in size because of course, I mean, the flux ropes are longer and hence, I mean, the estimated mass is larger. I mean, is that,
Yeah, I think.
Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, one can expect this, but how we can separate out only the high latitudes CME arriving at the Earth and are measuring their mass. So I think it would be interesting to see, but it would be difficult to.
You cannot measure the mass of, no, you can estimate it from a coronagraph, right? Even if it is high latitude CME and it is not arriving at Earth,
Yeah.
you can still estimate, you said from this Thomson scattering.
Yes, we can estimate the mass. But what I am saying that angular width and this information will be projected, highly projected. So estimates may be
Oh,
not
I
very
see.
accurate.
Okay. Yeah.
But it would be interesting. Maybe the all CMEs will be have similar scale down factor of the mass because the
Yeah, and
projected
if
mass
there is
is less.
a theoretical model which has, this longer flux rope and what is the mass of that versus a shorter flux rope and then, what kind of a mass. So that would be interesting to see actually.
Yes. I think Rajguru also pointed out that if one can find some filament catalogs, or one can go through the different images and see whether there are more number of filaments in cycle 24 in the last decade in compared to previous decades.
Like polar crown filaments.
Yeah,
sort
polar
of
crown
thing.
filaments. So one can make some sense, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
I think those catalogs are probably even available at, this Kodaikanal has this calcium, I don't know if that can be used. I think it should be possible to count filaments
Okay.
from that kind of database.
I think
Maybe
not
I'm
for
wrong,
cycle
but I'm
24,
just.
I don't think we have Kodaikanal.
There are not 24, but, Oh yes, 24 we don't have, but we only have
Maybe-
23.
Yeah, maybe
right?
from the mid after 2003, we can see even in cycle 24, in 23, sorry, even in the 23, one can look.
So the calcium K images are not routinely observed after 2000 or so, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Kodaikanal.
Yeah. But then we have the H alpha telescope.
Yeah.
by-
H alpha is only
Sorry, Rajaguru, we have Kodaikanal, we have for the past 6-7 years, again, we have a very good time cadence data we have.
continuously 6-7 years, only the last 6-7 years, right?
Yes, and yeah, I think when they discontinued with the old instrument, the new instrument like a warm telescope, we have that data.
But we don't have daily. We don't have daily, right?
Daily we have. Daily we have.
You have?
And in warm telescope images, we can see the filaments. Is it possible?
Yes, yeah, we can see the filament very better in the H alpha.
H alpha.
Yeah.
No, I mean if it may be possible to connect with the data this in the this.
This is a
H
very
alpha
long-term data. I don't think we have this much 2 cycles data with a modern telescope. We don't have, I think.
So we need to combine
Very
two
short term,
different
yeah.
data
We have the
sets.
short term data, like almost
So you-
2000
last 6
12
years
onwards we have.
from 2005, this warm telescope has produced daily images.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
It's
Yogesh.
interesting to see. Yeah, thank you.
Next, Sasikumar, can you
Yeah.
please unmute?
Yeah, so hi Vagesh, a nice talk. So I just have a comment regarding this colloidal magnetic field. So in the later years, Janardhan and even myself have looked at the magnetic field variation at different latitudes. So not only the colloidal fields, but equatorial fields also decreases since 2003.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah,
comment.
I have seen that in 2014. I think that work is published.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is very interesting. So it means that decrease should be related to this. One need to explain actually how this event decrease is giving more number of eruptions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Just a quick question. So the observations, the results on the iron abundance, iron to oxygen suddenly having a jump in cycle 24, is it published or?
No, yeah, this I recently actually discovered in the last couple of days. So these, as I told earlier, these are the recent plots I made. Even I have not gone through very understanding it, but it is interesting, and I will be publishing it soon.
All right. Okay. I mean, I'm just wondering if anybody else has reported it so far. No, right?
Actually, the long term for this all composition and this has not yet been studied.
Okay. Thank you.
There is one study by recently, but they have looked Mg by O and some other composition. So I will just see how my results are in agreement or disagreement with some recent studies.
Oh, this is from which data? Which instrument?
This is from the SWIX, so Solar Wind Ion Composition Spectrometer on board ACE.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, at L1.
Anybody else? Okay, if there are no more questions, let us thank the speaker for a very interesting talk on the discussion. Thank you, Vagesh.
Thank you, everyone. So should I leave now?